like you had mass shootings in like doggone 12, 13 cities throughout the country and whatnot. So it's like, of course, you know, Chicago is going to get all the flack for the mass shootings and stuff like that, but you had mass shootings going around all over the actual, all over the United States. So yeah, man, it just the mass shootings are just crazy up in this country as well. Too. And you know how many spaces we've had with mass shootings as well too. So that's another topic that hey, you talk about it, but you can never talk about it enough because there's always a damn mass shooting going on somewhere in the country.
Exactly. Always a mass shooting. So you can just throw a quarter up in the air and pick any story because it's happening every day in America. America is it is the most violent nation in the world, y'all. You know they are calling the United States that. If you didn't know that, go look it up. The United States is considered the most violent nation in the world, and part of I say the biggest problem for all of that is white supremacy. That's exactly what has made this country what it is. The reason why it's in trouble. And the reason why this nation is going to fall, it's going to fall, everybody, because of the evil that has been allowed to be endured in this country for years, and nobody has done anything about it to correct it. So therefore, it is going to fall.
Real talk. Let me give a shout out to everybody that's coming up in the space. Shout out to Miss Giselle, A Boogie, Orange, Black ID, of course, Ray. What's going on, Carlos? Pele, man, we're going to be discussing tonight medical apartheid going on in America, the medical apartheid that has been I can't say a detriment because it's just been a straight out harm to black people. I mean, from the beginning of time on those plantations, they've been doing it, been using black people as just the surgical dummy. We're going to also talk about the Moynihan report back from the 1960s. You know, in the Moynihan report, 58 years later, the report on poverty, black poverty, we're going to be discussing that as well, too. I would have liked to went ahead and read the entire Moynihan report, but you talk about like 47 pages. And yeah, we wasn't going to do that. So I do have those links up in the actual Jumbotron for both articles. We're going to touch up on both of them tonight. I definitely look forward to hearing everybody's their thoughts on it. But definitely this is definitely the medical apartheid. We see that this is still affecting us, you know, and the Moynihan report is still he went ahead and he laid out what was going on in Black America at that time. And you know, we're going to touch up on both of those topics tonight. So I look forward to everybody coming up in here. Shout out to those on YouTube. Nat, I see you over there holding it down. So we're going to go ahead and we're not going to waste much time. We want to go ahead and get up into this things because I want to hear what my people got to say about it. We touching up on both articles. Like I said, they both up in the Jumbotron on the far right-hand side. So definitely, guys, go ahead. I'm going to read those articles, but go ahead and also retweet them out as well, too. So go ahead and retweet them out. First article I want to touch upon is the medical racism, the apartheid. This is from WVUA. It's also curated on Newstoter.com platform. This article is a couple months old. I believe it was published back in March, but we got it still. And we want to go ahead and touch up on that and discuss that. The Moynihan report actually came from the NPR, and that report is actually 10 years old, but it's still relevant today as well. So we're going to touch up on both of those articles. So shout out to my people that's up in the space. Y'all go ahead and do me a favor and make sure y'all retweet this space out for the people we got in here. Everybody that's a Newstoter follow, just go ahead and retweet it. It's right down at the bottom of the space. Y'all see it? Go ahead and retweet the space out. And let's go ahead and try to get this thing rolling. The title is Medical Racism in History Causes Health Inequalities for Black Americans. The health inequalities for Black Americans documented in a series of stories by the Associated Press have their roots in a long history of medical racism. The AP has collected a small sample of that history related to every phase of life. It starts with this first topic, birth, gynecology, excuse me. James Marion Sims, a 19th century Alabama surgeon heralded as a father of modern gynecology, pioneered a treatment, a condition that affects bladder control and fertility in women between 1845 and 1849. Sims carried out the once experimented surgical treatment on a dozen enslaved women without the use of anesthesia. He has been both defended as a product of his era and panned as an unethical and inhumane. Since belief that black people could endure more pain than white people is considered a form of racism and still present in the field of medicine. For medical school students of various racial and ethnic backgrounds to primary care providers of small and large practices, the bias has adversely impacted the health outcomes of Black Americans, is also a source of Black American skepticism of modern medicine. Other brain operations. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. I was about to jump too far. Excuse me. The next subject, the next chapter in that is childhood behavioral treatment, behavior challenges in Black children throughout history, and typically in educational settings have been met with inequitable, inhumane, and even extreme treatment. Systematic racism and behavioral counseling and psychotherapy for school-aged children has met lifelong adverse consequences for generations of Black children, from the funneling of Black students with learning disabilities into special education tracks that lack resources and over-reliance on suspension and expulsion to institutionalization and experimental brain operations. Dr. Orlando J. Andy's work at the University of Memphis Medical School in the 1960s is one example. The neurosurgeon testified that he performed 30 to 40 lobotomies and other brain operations on Black children and other people with behavioral problems who had been institutionalized. Although Andy said his operations were a last resort for patients who lived with uncontrolled destructive hyperactivity, the procedure was performed on institutionalized Black boys as young as age 6. Some patients lived the rest of their lives with deteriorated intellectual capacity. Teen years adultification. Black children and teens are often perceived as much older than they are because of the bias known as adultification. They get viewed as less innocent and less deserving of empathy, resulting in harsher, different treatment in healthcare and other systems. The attitudes date back to slavery when Black children as young as 2 were made to work and punished for developmentally appropriate child behavior, according to scholars Michael J. Dumas and Joseph Derrick Nelson. Research shows these attitudes still drive disparities in outcomes for Black children and teens. A Yale study found Black children are 1.8 times more likely to be physically restrained in a hospital emergency room than white kids, a gap that may be driven by the hospital staff's view of Black children. Georgetown researchers have found that the adultification of Black girls is linked to them being treated more harshly in school. Adulthood, studying Black bodies. University of Cincinnati researchers led an experiment from 1960 to 1972 that exposed about 90 poor, mostly Black terminal cancer patients to extreme levels of radiation without their consent. The Department of Defense funded it as part of the Cold War radiation experiments, according to the Associated Press stories. Dr. Eugene Sanger, one of the chief researchers, said the study was meant to find experimental treatments for patients with inoperable cancer to see if he could stop the growth of tumors. But the patients and their families said they were not fully informed of the risks or asked to sign consent forms. They also weren't told of the Defense Department's involvement or that the results would be used to learn what might happen to troops exposed to radiation. A federal court ruling noted that parents were told they were receiving radiation for the cancer. The family's attorney said many of the patients died after the radiation or experienced shortened life expectancies. A judge approved a $5.4 million settlement for the families, so you had almost 100 families impacted, and 90 families was impacted, and they only gave them $5.4 million for all of this here. Professor, y'all make sure y'all go ahead and approve any speakers. I see Brother Amuku trying to come up, so go ahead and approve him. Death stealing Black bodies. Even in death, Black Americans haven't escaped racist acts denying them dignity that finer resting places should have afforded them. Graveyard diggers were often hired to exhume and remove the bodies of Black people for the sake of medical research and studies, unbeknownst to the family members. Harriet Washington, author of the book Medical Apartheid, noted that Black graveyards were regularly targeted, including by Dr. John Goodman, who in 1829 wrote that he paid the manager of a public graveyard for the privilege of emptying the pits of about 50 to 85 cadavers a month during each dissection season. Bodies were typically exhumed during the cooler months to align with the academic year. Washington wrote that historian Todd Savage said Black people are well aware of the grave robbery that occurred as evidenced by one elderly enslaved Virginia woman who once said, "Please, God, I hope when I die, it'll be summertime." So you got this older black woman saying she hopes when she died to be summertime so they can't go ahead and dig up her remains and use her as a science experiment. Real quick, I want to go ahead and touch up on the this shortened version of the Moynihan report. It's just revisited from 50 years ago. Like I say, this report, this actual article was from 2013, so this is 10 years old. Of course, we don't have the full article because that's a 47-page document that we weren't going to try to read. So let me go ahead and touch up on that. And like I said, that is up in the Jumbotron. You can go to the actual article, and in the curation, you'll find the actual full article on Newstoter, or when you actually click to read more, it'll take you to the full article, and there it has the actual link for anybody who wants to read the actual Moynihan report. But says a Moynihan Black Poverty Report revisited 50 years later. On Wednesday, the Urban Institute released a new report that revisits a famous study conducted almost 50 years ago by the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. The original study, The Negro Family, the Case for National Action, was written by Moynihan when he was an assistant secretary at the U.S. Department of Labor. In the report, he listed a series of ills he argued had helped cause poverty in Black America. Moynihan often reeled off the dire statistics. About a quarter of Negro families are headed by women. We see it's a quarter back then, and you're talking about probably 70-some-odd% now. The divorce rate is about 2.5 times what it is compared to whites, Moynihan said. The number of fatherless children keeps growing, and all these things keep getting worse, not better, over recent years. Years later, like I say, this article is from 2013. Years later, the problem remains large enough for a concerned father, President Obama, to address the nation. We got single moms out here. They're heroic what they're doing. We're so proud of them, Obama said, but at the same time, I wish I had a father who was around and involved. Since the release of the Moynihan report, significant progress has been made for middle-class Blacks, but there has been little economic improvement for the Black poor, says the Urban Institute's Gregory Aches. Aches says the same disparities Moynihan noticed 50 years ago remains in place today. You see much higher poverty rates for Blacks than whites, and you see much higher unemployment rates for Blacks than whites, Aches said. And much far greater share of kids being raised in single-parent families in Black families than in white families. Several problems create a stubborn tangle that enables poverty to thrive today. Untreated trauma from wars in Vietnam and the Middle East, persistent unemployment, public school systems that offer no vocational training for students who can't or don't want to go to college, and a two-tier justice system that is much harsher on Black men. Kenneth Braswell, executive director of the nonprofit organization Fathers Incorporated, thinks the issue Black families face today are much more complex than they were back then. Braswell helped write the Urban Institute report. Braswell himself, the son of an unwed mother, was a toddler when the original Moynihan report came out, but he remembers the oppressive atmosphere of welfare monitoring. Whenever one of us kids saw that car pull up to the building, we were told to immediately run into the building and let everyone know the social worker was there, Braswell recalls. He says a 1974 movie, Claudine, captures the era faithfully when the social worker asked the main character, Claudine, played by who's Claudine played by, y'all? By the beautiful actress that's no longer with us anymore. Can't think of her name right now. I cannot think of.
About Cynthia Jackson.
No, Claudine, the one that played Whitley's mom on Different World. What's her name?
Oh yeah,
Diane Carroll. Yeah. Okay. He says a 1974 movie, Claudine, captures the era faithfully when a social worker asked the main character, Claudine, if she'd been sleeping with a man. Am I not supposed to see a man, demands the affronted Claudine. Am I a damn nun? To which the social worker replies, no, but if you've been sleeping with a man and he's giving you things, I'm sorry, but I have to know. Braswell says that 50 years later, some of welfare's most intrusive policies have changed, but life hasn't gotten much easier for the Black poor. The current study also includes Hispanics because of their demographic prominence, but the situation for Latinos is a bit different, says X. On the average, their outcomes, whether it's unemployment, poverty, or children growing up in single families, they tend to fall between Blacks and white. Braswell says he liked to look at the numbers more closely in the future to see what role culture norms play in the poverty rates of various ethnicities. But in the meantime, even Americans who don't live in poverty have a vested interest in reducing it for the ones who do. Acts warned if we're going to let kids grow up in poverty and single families, go into bad schools, they're going to grow up to become dependent adults. The cycle will just repeat. Shout out to everybody that's up in the space, y'all. Tonight, the topic, we're talking about medical apartheid. We're talking about the Moynihan report 58 years later. So we just want to get everybody up in here. Thank you, everybody that's coming up in the space. Go ahead and tweet the actual space out as well. Two guys tweet the space out. Shout out to Cognitive. Thank you for your contribution on Cash App. We're going to go ahead and get to Brother Moku. Brother Moku, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Newstoter. How y'all feeling?
What's up?
And, this medical apartheid, it's real. We just had a late night speech last night, and he was talking about the same very thing. You know what I'm saying? This is something that's always been practiced, with one of the ways I feel like they practice racist white supremacy, but they were actually talking about how the white supremacists that named birds, they named birds after white supremacists, and one was about the white man, his name was Autobahn, and they named the bird after him, and he was an actual grave robber, and they were talking about how he robbed the graves of like Indians and non-white black people, and to study like the inferiority of black people towards white people, saying that white people were more smarter and all this, but they never found the remains. You know what I'm saying? And then things like this has been happening over and over again, even with the people removed that happened in 1985. You know what I'm saying? They held their remains for, what was it, like 20 years, and they just released them. Like, what are you doing with these remains? You know what I'm saying? And then when they robbed our ancestors and our elders' graves, what are they doing to them? Up there in Baltimore, my grandmother, my father's mother, was buried in a cemetery called St. Albert. It's right off of 295, coming right into Baltimore. And that cemetery is totally distraught. I mean, I can't even go and find my grandmother's remains. We went and searched, but the graveyard is so tore up. People that kicked over the tombstones. Lord knows we don't know who robbed them or if they did or didn't. You know what I'm saying? That's how much disarray our old cemeteries are. We don't know where half our elders' remains are. And I think that's another act of reparation. You know what I'm saying? That should be another part of reparation that should be repaid.
Real talk, Brother Moku, and you're right. We constantly keep seeing that what you're saying, mentioning just the cemeteries and stuff like that. They're constantly coming across these black cemeteries and messing with them, uncovering people and stuff like that. We constantly keep getting these black cemeteries, and people can't rest in peace. But the thing I will say about the actual medical apartheid, like, let's be totally honest right here, it's still going on. Like, it hasn't gone anywhere. They're a lot more secretive with things and stuff like that. Back then, you could do whatever you wanted to a black person, and hell, you couldn't say anything or do anything about it. But now, and like anything else down the road, after 50, 60 years, they'll come out and they'll say, well, we were doing this and we was doing that or whatever. By then, they'll be smart enough. They'll make sure they'll include everybody, so they won't say, oh, we were just targeting black people or whatever. Back in the day, they could just go ahead and target black people all they wanted to. And like I said, you had no leg to stand on. You couldn't fight back. You couldn't do anything. We know that and that's the thing about people wonder why black people are so against the medical system. And then, the only example people want to use is that, hey, we want to talk about all black people want to do is hold on to Tuskegee. But man, please, come on. There are thousands of Tuskegee experiments that went on in this country. Like, Tuskegee was just the tip of the iceberg and something that was just publicly put out there. But I mean, like I said, they're loading people up with radiation in this report, in this news report. 90 people, and they want to go ahead and give these people give their families $5.4 million. $5.4 million split up to 90 families. I mean, what is that? I mean, this is something that should have been like a class action lawsuit or whatever. They should have been given. They should have been handing out 150, $200 million, and they get away with giving chump change. $5.4 million to 90 people is complete chump change. So that what you're saying, brother Mooka. What I'm saying, I still, like I said, I have no trust for the medical profession. It's all about a dollar, and it's all about use. And they've been using black people from the time you were on those plantations up until now. We know well and good that they was in these projects. They had this damn lead paint and everything else that they were putting on. They was putting on these project buildings and stuff like that that caused black people all kind of health issues. We just don't even, like I say, the tip of the iceberg when you start talking about the United States and in the medical professions in it with the government. The government can say whatever they want to say, but they're right in it with them. So, yeah, man, I felt that this was going to be a very important topic. I wanted to cover medical apartheid because we had talked about this a while ago too, but I also want to tie it in also with this Moynihan report as well too. And I want to get everybody's opinion on how relevant the Moynihan report was, because I read the Moynihan report years ago, but it's so long that I can't, I won't sit up here and tell you that I can remember all of it or whatever, but I know it was a um, very long report. And I mean, he hit a lot of things he said, holds weight to this day. It really does. So we definitely want to go ahead and we want to talk about that. Brooke, I see you said that's 60K per family. Yeah, $60,000 per family ain't squat. What's up, Diane? What's up to the entire YouTube family over there? Go ahead, brother Moku.
Oh no, I was just going to add too that Moynihan report definitely ties into it because for centuries they have been targeting the homeless. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to look for them. You know what I'm saying? When they come up missing. You know what I'm saying? And John Hopkins is a big ass player, and I'll say it alleged for the station's sake, but I live here in Baltimore. I was born at John Hopkins. I've never been back at that hospital since I've been born there. And they are known for doing studies, grabbing homeless people off the street, especially when the big AIDS epidemic happened back in the 90s and the late 80s. They was some of my family members, they have drugged into those like Bayview Hospital, all these John Hopkins, where they got John Hopkins University and all this stuff. They have been experimenting on our people relentlessly. Relentlessly. My grandmother was a victim of having a cow vein inserted in her arm. You know what I'm saying? Because she was diabetic. You know what I'm saying? This happened in the 80s. My grandmother died in 1980. So this shit has really been happening, and I feel like especially it's a war on poverty, but that's a whole different kind of war when you are basically hunting the homeless, and you put it in your movies, you put it in your entertainment like it's a myth. You know what I'm saying? When we here in Baltimore, we go downtown, it's nothing to see a homeless person outside. You from New York, you from LA. It's nothing to see a homeless person outside when you walking past them. But we don't think like, damn, these people nobody's looking for these people. And if they snatch them up, they can do all types of experiments on them, kill them, and you'll never miss them. And that's how they looking at us as a whole, as a collective. And I feel like we're in the most dangerous time right now where we need to definitely squad up. You know what I'm saying? Make it a rule. Don't no single person go out alone and all types of shit like that. Because we are the hunted. I'm not saying that to be, for anybody to be fearful, but hey, when you're at war, you gotta think with a war mind. You know what I'm saying? I'll land that.
All right. Thank you, brother Muku. I see my girl Brooke is up in here. Brooke, what's going on? How you doing tonight?
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. How you doing, Newstoter? Hey to the room. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, we doing good. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. That's right. And I'm in Texas. I'm in Houston. It is hot as hell. I wanted to say something else.
Well, I'm in Florida and it's hot as hell here too, so.
Yeah. Well, happy Juneteenth. This is an important subject. I really like to be on YouTube, but I wanted to come off as this is an important subject And since we have everybody's attention, and today is such a monumentous occasion, I want to, remind people. I love what the gentleman said. He said, "Don't be fearful, but do be watchful." There is a rash of missing persons, right? Black missing persons happening. That's insane that nobody's checking for, right? In New Jersey, the FBI has taken a organ donation, like basically a ring that's been running out of Jersey with the rabbis and some mayors. It's like a whole, they're like exporting our organs to Israel, and they've arrested people in New Jersey twice. The FBI has, and at both times they did a sting where they watched them for like 5 years. So it's well, obviously y'all are just letting it happen. Then you just interrupted when your payments don't go. Oh, okay. So then you let in the new regime. Okay. So and the number one victim of human trafficking, at least in the United States, is us, Black Americans. We're 75% of the victims. So all of that is tied to a whole underground victimization of medical apartheid. So it's not just the fact that when you go to the doctor, they prescribe you, like say if you have the sniffles, they prescribe you a medicine that may cause sudden death. That's all, right? Like it's got 25 different other symptoms that will most definitely mess you up, or side effects rather. So just, definitely be mindful that we are at war. Although it is quiet around you and you may not be hearing literal gunshots, we are at war. And I agree, do not be fearful, but keep your head on a swivel. It is real out there. Nobody is checking for us but us. And, definitely link up in that buddy system. They say don't have a whole lot of the same habits, or at least stay where people can, where you can be seen on camera. Just anything like that. Watch out for weird things happening with your car. Just things like that. Be mindful. And then this medical apartheid, before I go, I'm going to leave with this. This medical apartheid is multi-layered. The fact that some immigrant lady had the caucasity to say that Tuskegee was ethical reminds us of the psychological damage and gaslighting that they love to do to us. They love to tell us that the reality wasn't real. But we're not going to let them do that. I thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brooke. Glad to have you. And Brooke she said something that really stuck with me. I was actually going to touch up on that. She started bringing in the actual human trafficking, the organs and everything else, which really because they've been talking about that lately as well too. And we think about people going to South America and Brazil and winding up in a tub of ice and stuff like that. But the United States has a big hold on that human trafficking as well too. The United States has a big hold on trafficking, period. Human trafficking, whether it's taking somebody's organs or just taking that, or just having these things set up where people end up being shipped across the other side of the world. Don't let anybody fool you. That you definitely have to be careful. And when we're talking about the medical apartheid, let's think about the actual organ theft. Let's also think about too, like I said, because they always need somebody to test this stuff on, and a lot of times we don't think about it, but some of these people that's missing on the street, they end up being, their organs end up getting taken, or they get shipped overseas somewhere to become some kind of a sex worker, or they become the next science frog. They're the ones that's getting experimented on. And it's just not them. Like Brother Muku said, you got the homeless, You got the people in these state hospitals, some of these mentally ill people in these state hospitals. You also got that we don't think about, and this is for the human trafficking of their organs, but also for them to actually be the science frog, also the prisoners, the industrial prison complex industry. Don't think for 1 second, because we have a lot of people that mysteriously end up dead in these prisons and stuff like that as well too. The family members never figure out how their loved one got died. You know, it's always some kind of circumstance we don't know, and this and that or whatever. So there's a lot of different things going on right now. Like I said, and a lot of times we forget about the prisoners as well too, because hey, prisoners in most people's eyes don't have any rights anyways, and prison by law it's the closest you can be to actually still being a slave legally in this country as well too. So whole lot of stuff going on with missing people, prisoners, homeless, the people up in these state hospitals and stuff like that, and these psychiatric wards and everything else like that as well too. So we need to go ahead and start thinking about that as well too. And like Brooke said, definitely keep your eyes open when you're out there on the streets as well too, because you just never ever know. Miss Giselle, how you doing tonight?
Hey guys, I'm so glad you guys are talking about that. Because like I've been one always. Like I don't care how old my children are, I need to know exactly where they are. Boys and girls alike, and even down to us. Like it's a huge push. Trafficking has gone. Like I think they use trafficking as an illusion. I think it has always been more organ harvesting than the sex trafficking portion of this, because they just for us specifically here, because a lot of the people on African soil, their blood types are not like old blood. Like they're not like the closest to the original. Believe it or not, they are a very young population there. When you look at like the Black Americans, our bloodlines are older, it's more ancient, and like the prison system actually acts as like a refrigerator system. Like it was a big, like it wasn't a mystery, but people started like, side-eyeing a lot of people that would get out of jail and then end up getting killed. It would be so random that you would get out of jail, 2 days later you killed, and they blamed it on gang violence. But that's also another reason why I think they had to criminalize so many of our people. They had to really demonize our community to make people think that we're just self-destructive. So all of this other stuff can just be written off in the name of gang violence. And that's what they do. A lot of these murders, you're like, that was random. Like, wow, nobody even shooting in this area. All of a sudden, people getting gunned down. And see, once they take your body after you die in certain counties and cities and other municipal, they actually take your body, and your family don't get to see your body. You get to identify the body, but they don't get access to your body for days. In some cases, it's weeks that they don't get access to the family body. So at that time, it's been told. So many people have talked about, and Black morticians, they even talk about, they're like, look, we're getting these bodies back and organs are missing. And see, once you're in jail, the first thing they do, they run a scan on all of your body parts. They know who got what diseases and all of that type of stuff. They know what works and what doesn't work. And they're absolute hits in prison systems, just like it's hits in the street. And like I'm with Brooke, I always tell people just like what to do. We had to cancel the event last month for the teaching our kids and just everybody self-defense tactics to help them outside. But we're going to be doing that with the back to school prep that we're putting together for August. So. It's important that we just stay vigilant and mindful of, all of the bullshit while we're out here running the streets. Sorry for the language.
Thank you, Ms. Giselle. And I know there's also a push too right now that they're saying, because we don't have enough Black people actually taking part in these clinical trials, that they're trying to, and if somebody wants to, if they want to volunteer for a clinical trial, that's up to them. But I know they're saying that we don't have enough Black people actually volunteering for the clinical trials. So that's something else right now that it was an article that I had, and I cannot remember. It was a couple of weeks ago, but it was about trying to get more black people to actually volunteer and take part in clinical trials because they believe that it's better for us as black people, and it helps us understand exactly what works for our bodies and what doesn't work for our bodies as well too. So that was also something right now that they're actually trying to get more black people to actually volunteer and take part in clinical trials, and that's pretty interesting as well too. I know the clinical trials, some people get this and some people get that or whatever. So I don't really know exactly how they work, but I just found that fascinating as well too. Professor, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother, and peace, power, and reparation. Much love to everybody in this space. I have to agree with everything that Sister Brooks said, Sister Giselle said. We're going to have to stay very vigilant when it comes to our people because this medical apartheid is really about taking us out. And that's something that I've been reading about for years now. When you're hearing about more and more people just coming up missing and they can't be found, and then all of a sudden people coming up dead, like Sister Giselle said, they getting out of jail and all of a sudden they dead. That's being planned. And most likely, y'all, law enforcement is involved in a lot of these cases. I have said in some of the spaces that, when you're hearing about the stories about people being hanged from trees, coming up missing, is law enforcement involved in shit too. So this is why we got to stay vigilant within the community to make sure we are watching each other. We are too far. We are spread it out too far in this country. I mean, we spread it out everywhere. We got our people all up in places that are just remotely where it's not a lot of our faces. It's not a lot of us. And so we got to understand that this medical apartheid is being done in so many different forms. One way, they try to kidnap you to get your organs, but it's also being used in a way to try to kill us on the medical side with medicine, or to maybe even misdiagnose you. It's just different ways this thing is being done to make sure that our people are eliminated. And I call it, what I call it, y'all? I call it a silent killer. In other words, we'll kill you this way so people won't suspect what's going on. See, because they can go out here and fire guns and shoot at you, but hey, we can kill you this way, and nobody really asks a whole lot of questions because the system is set up in these people's favor anyway. They control it. Okay, they control all of this. They control the law enforcement. They control the medical system. So they work hand in hand right there. The coroner washes the hands of the damn cops. Cops washes the hand of the coroner. See, so this is what we're dealing with out here, man. You got white supremacy surrounding you every which way. So I think we said in a space last night. We talked about Psalms 91. Hey, that's the scripture in the Bible for protection, right? But I'm telling you, you keep that Psalm 91. Keep that. But I'm telling you to make sure you keep that Psalm 90 Glock. You keep it loaded and ready, okay? The Psalm 90 Glock. Don't forget it. Don't ever forget that scripture. Psalm 90 Glock. I want y'all to say it with me. Psalm 90 Glock. Don't. You know what I'm saying? Be ready. There you go. But anyway, I'm gonna land right there, family. I just wanted to get my little sin in there, and then I want to hear what everybody has to say. This is a very good topic. We definitely need to stay on top of this, and because we know that they're using this medical apartheid as a way to eliminate us too.
Absolutely, Professor. And I agree with you. What you're saying, that it's an elaborate scheme, like you say. You got the medical profession involved in this. You have you have so many different levels of this. The cops, you got to have funding and everything else. There's so many different things that we don't even know about that's going on with this. So it's just not a one. It's everything that happens in America. They try to make it seem like it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence that this happened or this just happened out of the blue. Like this in this country, we know for a fact, very few things are just coincidental. Like this is an elaborate scheme that they're using right now. They've been using this scheme. They've been doing it for black women. They started off, just using black women as guinea pigs on those plantations to see exactly how they could take this and take that. And like you say too, Professor, when it comes to the medical profession, they're always misdiagnosing people. And they always, that medicine didn't work for so and so. Let's try this medicine. Like they're taking it, they're constantly writing down this data to see exactly how this person responds to certain medicine and this and that or whatever. So it's constantly, if you had a family member that was up in the hospital and they were on this medicine right here, they're constantly jotting down exactly the times that people are taking it, the dosage, everything that you can think of, how they respond to it. Well, this didn't work for this person right here. We're going to try this one right here, whatever. So there's so many different things, so many different scenarios to be played in this thing as well, too, that I wouldn't be surprised, man, that if we have a global, like some of these other countries and stuff might not be in bed with the United States on this thing as well, too, because this is a big thing right here. Like we said, we talk about the human trafficking. For the longest, we always assumed that the organ trafficking was something that was foreign to the United States. That this happens in Asia, and this happens in South America, and this happens in Africa. No, damn it happens right here. This country's always talk about how they have a shortage of this and they have a shortage of that. We don't have enough. We don't have enough organ donors. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough that. So it's such an elaborate thing going on, man. That I wouldn't be surprised who the U.S. is in bed with, because, like I say, it goes beyond. Like Miss Giselle said, you got these funeral homes telling these people like, hey, when some of these people come in, the dead people come in here, they're missing organs, they're missing this, they're missing that, or whatever. This stuff is already taken out. The organ, I mean, that's a commodity, being able to go ahead and use organs and stuff like that and donate and this and that or whatever and do transfusions and all the other kind of stuff, man. That is a huge commodity right there. You can't underscore how much it is for somebody to get a heart transplant or a liver transplant or that transplant or whatever. Like, you're talking about big business going on right here in America. So nothing at this point in time surprises me. Go ahead, Brother Moku. You got it. You there, Brother Moku?
Is he in the matrix?
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so what I was going to say was, race correction. And race correction is what brother professor was mentioning, what the long term misdiagnosis. You know what I'm saying? Where you keep going to your primary care doctors or your clinics. Some may be going to like first patient or patient first or neighborhood pharmacies or pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. But they misdiagnose you over a long period of time. And then when shit get real bad, that's when they come up to you and say, oh, you need a lung replacement or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? When all this time they've been telling you shit has been good. So we gotta be real. I would implore people, like, when you go to your doctor visits, make it a habit of going to the medical records store, and you can do this. You don't need no special request or no type of clearance or anything. You can go right to the medical records department and get your doctor's notes. Watch and see what they're writing down about your condition, because I'm really thinking that when you apply for something like disability and they send you back a form or a letter saying, well, we need more evidence, this is the evidence that they be talking about. We don't know to get these notes. We don't even know that we get our doctor's notes. Like, when you sitting in your doctor's office and they sitting down with the clipboard or they're at their computer and they're typing in that shit or writing down that shit, you can get everything that they're writing down or typing in. That's your information. So I just want to bring that clear. Thanks for Professor for bringing that idea back in my head. Me and he just did hold the space. He probably was in there nice space, and I think this is something that needs to keep being reiterated because we're hit with so many diversions and distractions in a day that we can't remember all of this shit all the time. Excuse my friend. All of this stuff that's all the time, with all of the distractions that's coming at it. I mean, we got our children being shot, that their heads being severed by bosses that, or employers that white supremacists are protecting. We got all this stuff going on at one time. I understand that sometimes we might not remember this, but every time you go into that doctor's office, it is imperative that you leave there with those doctor's notes. I'll land there.
All right. Thank you, brother Moku. Real quick, guys, up in the Jumbotron on the far left-hand side. Yeah, on the far left-hand side, we got the YouTube channel. We didn't get any subscriptions last night. So if everybody in the space is already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I can understand that. But if you have not subscribed, it's up in the Jumbotron on the far left-hand side. Go ahead and subscribe while the space is going on. You can listen and subscribe. All we need is a click of the button. For my people on YouTube, make sure you guys go ahead and like and share the actual space out as well, too. For those that can support us on Cash App, $Newstoter, Newstoter. Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black curation media platform today in America. Once again, Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black American news media curation platform today in America. For those who do not have Cash App, we have the PayPal and Venmo up in the Jumbotron. For those on YouTube, all of those links in the description. Let me go ahead and kick it to Vovo. Vovo Rants, how you doing tonight, Vovo?
I'm all right. Can y'all hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, appreciate you letting me speak, brother. Yeah, I just want to say, I came late. I was just gonna listen, but it's something I wanted to touch on. I go to Cleveland Clinic. I don't know what the space was about. I came late, but just to piggyback on what he said. I go to Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic, they got an app that where you can get all your medical information. It's called My Chart. I'm pretty sure other healthcare systems got the same thing or something like it. So just look into that. And you go say, what's the app to the hospital? If your hospital ain't got an app where you can look at your medical records, you need to go find a new hospital. Like seriously though, like that should be. Everybody online, we all got these smartphones. That shouldn't be, you really need to be finding a new hospital. So I just wanted to say that, just to piggyback on what he said.
All right, Volvo. Yeah, the space tonight, we just talking about medical apartheid. You said you missed it. I read a couple articles, one dealing about medical apartheid, talking about the actual roots and everything that traces back. It gave you a nice little timeline. It went from all the way from slavery all the way up, pretty much to the present day. So we pretty much talking about that and how they've experimented on black people, how they've taken dead bodies out of the cemetery and experimented on those, and just had people with heavy doses of radiation to see how they would respond to it. So the actual articles are up on the right hand side in the Jumbotron, and we also talking about the Moynihan report. And the Moynihan report was back in 1965, and you had a senator named Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and he was talking about the black poverty rate that was going on in the country, and basically trying to say exactly at that time certain things needed to be done to address the actual black poverty rate, which he saw. He saw the actual black family in itself, things kind of worsening for the black family. Back in 1965, according to him, about a quarter of Negro families are headed by women. Okay, so 25% of black families at that time in 1965 were headed by black women. Today's rate, we're talking about what, 75% at least? He's also talking about, that something had to be addressed with the actual public schools. Well, what he didn't say, but the actual public schools today, we're talking about, they offer no kind of vocational training for students. So if basically, if people not going to college, then there should be some kind of option available. And there's no option. At one time, vocational schools, they had the actual vocational schools almost in the actual public schools, but you don't see that anymore. That they kind of got rid of that. So you're pretty much having kids graduate at 18 years of age or whatever. And you got a few choices. You're going to go to college, B, you're going to go to the military, or C, you're going to go ahead and you're going to work out there. Now we know if you go out there and you work without any kind of training or whatever, you're going to get a low entry level type job. That's just how it is. So at least at one time you had it where, you know, a lot of people that have vocational training make as much or more money than actual college people with degrees and stuff. So that's no longer the case. And that needs to be addressed. That needs to be fixed as well. We need to go ahead and get it back to where, you know, there are all kind of different trades and technical abilities and skills and stuff that you could actually learn right there in high school. That's no longer the case. They're not funding that. They're not trying to put that in there. And you know, it's one thing, you know, you can have somebody that's 18 years old within a year and a half, 2 years, they're walking away. This person is fully trained now, and this person is making $55,000, $60,000 a year, or even if you're 20 years of age and you're making $40,000 a year. You know, that I know $40,000 in 2023 isn't what it was in, let's say, 1993, but still, nonetheless, hey, you're on your way at least. So we don't have that. So that's what we just talking about, Volvo, pretty much. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah, I want to touch on that real fast. It is schools. I went to Job Corps, and they, you know, it was age 16 to 24. And they trained us. I learned facilities maintenance, which I never used it, you know, because I got into other stuff when I got out. But you know, it is training out there. It should be mandatory in school, in my opinion. I always say that you gotta get them while they're young. You gotta get them in high school. You know, that should be, because after high school, everybody don't want to go to college. You know, sometimes that'd be enough school, and it ain't nothing wrong with learning a trade. You know, when you see those guys on the side of the road fixing the highway, you know, stuff like that, slow down for them. Slow down for them. Like, I know you're in a rush, but slow down for them. You know, those guys skilled. Some of them guys know how to, concrete guys out there, steel workers out there, you know, guys that know how to work the backhoe. You know, I'm a truck driver. You know, I got to go through there. You know, it's skill. If you look, it's hot outside now in America. If you look at the guys that's working on houses and with the ladders, riding around with ladders and all that, those guys are making livings. You know what I mean? Like that's big business. Every time I turn a corner, somebody doing some work on their house. You got to repair a roof, all the roofers and all that. You don't need to go to college for that type of stuff, and you can make a good living. I'm gonna close with this. Every black community got a neighborhood crackhead that work on cars. Do your brakes. Everybody go down there, you give them $40, you come back in an hour, and you good. That man ain't never had a job. He just got a skill. All he needs is his tools and somewhere in a flat surface, and he gonna put you together. So you know, it's always a skill. You know, I mean, there's always you know, if you learn how to work with your hands, can't nobody take that from you. I hope I'm not off topic, brother. I appreciate you letting me speak. I'm gonna drop down.
No, you right on topic, Ned. Like I said, that was part of the actual report as well too. So that's something that's vital, and we, like I said, it's something that we need to go ahead and get back to as well too. You know, and not only that, but what we fail to realize too, that what vocational, it's not even like you say, Volvo. Like, yeah, there are a bunch of guys that can work with their hands, but there's so many different things as well too. You can get a trade where you're not even using your hands. You get a trade where you may be in the computers, or you may be doing something, you know, something different altogether. So there's so many different trades out there, you know, even more so now than, let's say, back in 1965, that, hey, you know, that there's different things that you can actually do as well. That's not even just using your hands. Because let's be for real, not all men are good with their hands as well too. But there's so many different things out there that you can learn now and you can do that can make you a nice living as well too. So I definitely agree with you saying that. And I think the high school, we need to go ahead and get in there. But I wouldn't even I say even middle school, man. Let's start some of because we can find some of our young brothers in middle school and stuff that's handy as hell right now. We can start getting some of these kids in coding and everything else. And, you know, let's go ahead and let summer programs and stuff. We need that funding and stuff like that as well too. Phoenix, I see you leaving. I hope you come back up here. I'll get you back up here. But Yeah, man, there's so many different things that, hey, man, like, yeah, the brothers that's good with their hands, go ahead and put them in there. But the kids that may not be, as skilled with their hands, but, they have other strengths as well, too. We got to go ahead and we got to pull those strengths out of those kids and go ahead and put them in the best position to succeed in life. Guys, hold on 1 second. Go ahead and handle it. Go ahead and handle it for me real quick, Professor.
Okay. Who's next? It's you, Annie Phoenix. Oh no, Phoenix. Oh yeah, look like she just disconnected.
Yes, drop back down, back up.
Okay. Go ahead, Brother Muko.
Yeah. From my elders. I remember my mother saying, hey, yeah, go to your next door neighbor's house, and get some sugar. Tell Miss Sandy we need some sugar. And then return if Miss Sandy needs something, give her what we got. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been a bartering thing with us. And I think we need to get back to that and really, get that back to that and putting a lot of these big businesses that's not really having our best interest at heart, put them out of business. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. I trust that we can do that. I don't even think we can do it. I trust that. I trust that. I don't even know that we can do that because we got a lot of skilled people.
Yeah, we do, Brother Muko. We got a lot of skill set people in our community, man. And with Bobo was talking about the crackhead that could work on cars, man. He is telling the truth there, man. Because I know I saw a lot of those type of dudes in the neighborhood that could work on cars, could do carpenter work. But these dudes had gotten hooked on something. But at the end of the day, these dudes are talented and got skills. But see, America a lot of time has locked a lot of our talented, skilled brothers and sisters out of things. And see, they feel hopeless, right? So they fall into this trap that America puts out here for you. This is why we can't put down our people, but we got to uplift our people and make them understand, hey, this skill set that you have is of a benefit for your community. And this is why we have to keep what we need, what we have within our community, because we can help each other. Because we know that these other communities are not going to benefit us at all. We can only benefit each other. That's where we got to get back to, and this is what Brother Malcolm X had been talking about for a long time. So I want everybody to understand this is what we got to be on right now, because we see right now in America what's happening here is they trying to make sure that we are kept at the bottom and we just don't have anything. Bobo, go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah, and I'm back, y'all. But go ahead, Vovo.
Y'all just remind me. I spoke about the crackheads. The crackheads that know how to work on stuff. I got a crackhead that I have work on my house. I own my house for 3 years. Without him, the house wouldn't be running right. He done, I blew a hot water heater. He came and fixed that. He cut my grass. He do my line. He do a winter clean out every year on my line. The raccoons got on the roof and tore the shingles off. He fixed that. He climbed on the roof. This man's 60 years old. You get this nigga $30 a beer and a pack of cigarettes. He can literally work on your whole house. He's been doing it this whole life. He's from back in the day. He was in high school in the 70s when they still had that stuff going on. He's been taking care of himself his whole life. All he needs is his bag of tools. That's it. And he can do it, and he willing to do it. But why I came up is I know that we got some black women in this space. I don't know, I got a summer cold. We got some black women in the space, and let me say this, right? Ain't no reason why that the Asians should be doing your nails. You should encourage your little 15-year-old niece or daughter or some of them that might not want to go to college and all that. Go and be a beautician. Go get certified. We all got the hood beautician that braid everybody hair and do everybody dreads. No, go and take your time and take a year and get certified. You know what I mean? Then, you know, these people that made millions of dollars doing nails. So it's obviously lucrative. These people make more than doctors doing nails. So, you know, I just wanted to say that, you know, and encourage your niece or your little cousin that, you know, she might be going the wrong way in life, or she, you know, she ain't sure what she want to do. Encourage her. Say, take a look at that. Because there ain't no reason why they doing the nail, making all this money. Appreciate you letting me speak, bro. I'm going to drop down for real this time.
All right. Thank you, Vovo. Like you say, guys, and the trade school, it's not just for men either. You know, vocational school, because, you know, there's a lot of sisters that go to vocational school. They get training, they get certifications and everything else as well, too. So I know one of the main things people say that the actual certificate or the vocational school is expensive and things of that nature. But we definitely got to find a way to go ahead and start to wrap that back up into Black community, Black life as much as possible. Like I said, the thing that's really when you look at when you hear that Moynihan report from 58 years ago and you see the actual Black family, you know, and at that time, you know, 75% of Black families were together, the fathers and mothers, they were together and this and that or whatever. And even at that time, Moynihan, you know, he was to the point that he was saying that, you know, that there's an issue right here. There's an issue. And the issue was because I believe earlier in the night in the that century, in the 20th century, you had at the turn of the century, you had something like 90% of Black families were together. So gradually over time, we started to see, you know, you go from 90% to you get to 80% till you get to 75% to like slowly and surely, like exactly what happened, what got to the point that we go from almost 80% of you know, Black households being together to the point that we're now where, you know, almost 80% are headed by a single parent. And it's not just single mothers either, because I know a lot of times we want to go ahead and put the single mothers, but there are a lot of single fathers out there as well too, guys, that have their kids and raising their kids as well too. So how do we get to the point that we go from being maybe at one point in time probably the most married group in the country? You know, we probably have the most married, with the most married race in the country. We're definitely and you know, Brother Muku and the rest of us, all of us that was in the space last night, we talked about the actual nonsense that the media perpetuates about Black fathers and Black fathers don't do this and Black. Yeah, even CNN, Caucasian News Network had to go ahead and say, yeah, well, you know, that's not entirely true, even though we've been spinning this narrative for the past since the 70s, since the mid 70s, we've been spinning that narrative about Black fathers being deadbeats and Black fathers being, as the famous group from Motown, the Temptations say, Rolling Stones. We've been spinning this narrative about Black fathers, this and that or whatever, when we actually know that that's not kind of the case or whatever. Brooke, I see you said prison. I see Brooke on YouTube. She said that prison has played a big part of it too. The prison industrial prison complex has played a huge part of actual Black fathers and stuff. The article also talked about you know, the trauma that went through in Vietnam and Middle Eastern guys. If you have an uncle or a family member that went through Vietnam, they went through something like that. They went through Vietnam was a war unlike any other war. When you got people jumping out of the goddamn jungles at you and you don't know where the hell to walk at because you may be blown to kingdom come by stepping on a landmine. And even if you did not see actual action out there, you're getting hit with the Agent Orange and all that other stuff that they had out there going on. You're seeing dead bodies one way or another, you know, even if you're not in action, you're seeing them, you know, wherever you're stationed at. So Vietnam played a major impact on the psyche of people and the Middle East too. A lot of times, especially Desert Storm, I know we go back to like 1990, 91. Desert Storm was a very short war. Desert Storm was over with maybe about 6 months or a year, whatever. But at the same time, people was out there letting loose nerve agent gas and everything else on our people and stuff like that. You don't know about the psychological scars that people come back from. We forget that people are not equipped. You know, yes, we've been fighting since the beginning of time, but war is not a natural thing. You know, war is a learned behavior. Yeah, fighting may be one thing, but actually going to war and seeing carnage and everything like that and what you have to go through in war is not a natural thing. And I'm sure other generations, I'm sure the World War II generation had to go through it as well too, because they were in a different type of warfare. You know, people getting blown to smithereens right in front of you, so it was different. But I just want to, I don't understand how we got to that point that hey, you know, marriage and stuff like that. You know, the black family, the black man, the black woman, and we know things weren't perfect. I'm not sitting up here, and I know people say, well, you know, it wasn't perfect back then. Nobody's arguing that it was perfect. I'm not saying that it was perfect. I'm not saying it was all hunky dory. Marriage is tough, and we know it's not perfect. But I'm just wondering, how do we go from, like I say, if you go back to the turn of the century, we're talking about at that time, you're talking about 90 some odd percent of the people that was black was getting married. You know, during slave times, you had really no option, no choice in who you were marrying. A lot of times, your marriage at any time could be annulled for the simple fact that hey, they're going to sell your spouse off or whatever. How do we get to the point that even that this white man Moynihan could see in the mid 1960s could see that hey, something is going on with the black family here. The black family's in serious trouble right here, right now, and something the black poverty rate. He saw it. And yeah, we have a growing middle class. The middle class has expanded over time, but we still have a significant number of our people living in the poverty rate. So how in the world did we get to this point? And how can we elevate from this point? That you know, that's a real question. I know, and like I said, guys, we going back and forth. We talking about everything, the medical apartheid. We talking about the Moynihan report. We mixing it in. I see a lot of our people up in here, so shout out to all you guys up in the space. Y'all make sure y'all tweet the space out as well too. Go ahead and tweet the space out. Let me go ahead and get to Carlos, and then Brother Muku, I'm gonna get back to you. Go ahead, Carlos. How you doing?
All right. What's going on, Newstoter and co-hosts and everybody in the room? Happy Juneteenth to everybody.
What's up?
I just wanted to touch on that medical apartheid. A little known thing that about the military. I mean, I know that a lot of us are aware of the military racist, you know, its racist practices and everything, but you know, it was a unit in Maryland at Aberdeen Proving Ground that had about 200 black soldiers there and they got sent there because they were considered F-ups, screw-ups in their unit that they were assigned to. So they got sent there and they were experimented on. This is something that is very little known, and these men were given things that they didn't even know what they were given. So when they would go to the doctor because they were having these symptoms or whatever, the doctor would be like, well, what did they give you? And they couldn't answer the question. When they were discharged from the military, after they got out, they tried to file for VA benefits and they kept being denied. And what they were doing was they were waiting for those men to die. It's like 2 of them that's still alive right now, to my knowledge. it's only like 2 out of 250 that's left. And they're just waiting for these last 2 men to die before they actually say, oh, yeah, well, we did this. But, yeah, this was, I mean, it was a known practice that they've always used us for guinea pigs in the medical system. And I landed.
All right. Thank you. Let me go ahead and get to Brother Muku. Brother Muku, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah, they used to have another systematic way of doing this, and I addressed this last night in my debate about this is like the wholesale of the father's responsibility. You know what I'm saying? The black father's role. You know, they trying to sell it wholesale to pharmaceutical companies, to the doctors, to the to the police. Everybody got hands. Everybody got hands in our job. You know what I'm saying? The taking of our job. And now what happens is when the police can't control our children, which we supposed to do, when everything gets out of whack, they try to take from us. Then they want to try to point the finger at us like we're not doing the job. And I think that's what we're seeing now. I think the way to alleviate this is to create this, getting more codified in a way of not even using their service. You know what I'm saying? Mistreatment is mistreatment. You know what I'm saying? So if you know that the hospital mistreats you in any way, don't even utilize that shit. You should just find a whole new way of kind of what Barbara was saying, like find a better hospital. I say find a whole nother doctor, period. And I'm not even talking about a medical doctor. I'm talking about holistic. Changing your value. I think we talked about this last night in my speech. All this revolves around our what we value and what we don't value. You know what I'm saying? Western medicine, I don't think it's something to be valued. They already showed us the evidence decade after decade after decade of murdering us. You know what I'm saying? This what Newstoter said about the organ trafficking. We already had cases that are still unsolved. You know what I'm saying? The young man down in South Carolina, no taxation brought up a couple of weeks ago, that was found rolled up in the goddamn wrestling mat and organs missing. You know what I'm saying? Still to this day, nobody's arrested for that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's held accountable for that. Anything gets swept under the rug, and then we get hit with another distraction, until all this shit starts piling up. So I feel like we at a boiling point right now, and paying attention and putting this spotlight on this medical apartheid. I feel like we need to drill this because this ties into reparations. You know what I'm saying? We need to prepare from this. You know what I'm saying? Not to what they say, reform this or make it a better situation, because their medical not a good part of it to be saved, to be revamped. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to point out that maybe if we change some of our values, we won't even be in these medical facilities for them to practice medical apartheid.
Thank you, Brother Muku. And guys, let me say, for those that can donate, we're trying to get at least $1 contribution donation to tonight's program. So if you got $1 that you can donate on Cash App, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. We definitely need the support of our people to support the Black media as much as possible. So like I said, we don't ask for much, but for those that can donate to tonight's program, that's $Newstoter, $Newstoter. For those that do not have Cash App, we have Venmo and PayPal up in the Jumbotron as well, too. But we definitely need the support of our people as much as possible. So once again, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. By supporting Newstoter, you're supporting other Black-owned news sites, Black-owned media. We go ahead and we promote them for free. So by supporting Newstoter, you're supporting other Black-owned news sites, Black-owned bloggers, Black curation, Black female bloggers, news, and everything else, guys. So definitely think about it. For those that can support, for those who can't, we understand. But for those that can support by even just $1 or $2 to tonight's program, it is greatly appreciated. Let me go ahead and get to Brooke. Brooke, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you, sir. Yes, tonight's subject is so crucial, and I love what the gentleman. I always forget who's speaking right before me, but he was saying how what can we do? How do we pull out of a medical apartheid? And so I completely agree what he said about being codified, and I think it sounds like it's time to be codified in skipping grocery stores altogether and going back to the Black farmers. And I know I've mentioned this before, food, so much of what they do to our food is genetically modified, and they don't even tell you. So going back to the soil, going to the doctor as much as humanly possible, and going to your local Black farmer, finding out what herbs they have, finding out if they have honey nearby that will help cure a lot of your sinuses, or you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how we have to start pulling out and going back to growing back to the soil, as some people have said. And so if you don't know where a Black farmer is in your area, there's surprisingly a lot around you, depending upon where you are. Take a look at my profile. If there's a pin right there, find, some of them might have a food box program that you could opt for. Can't guarantee that they're lineage, but at least they're Black, And so, most definitely, because and the reason why medical pulling food is pulling out of the best way to pull out of the medical apartheid is because of the crazy, crappy things that they keep making and they keep feeding to people on these commercials. The Cheeto burger, the chicken tenders in a sandwich, like with extra spare ribs on top of it, and most of that stuff is not real food anyway. Latinos don't care about being killed, and the stuff that you buy in the grocery store is probably genetically modified and mislabeled. Thank you.
Brooke, real quick before you leave, because I know you had left a comment on YouTube when I was talking about like what happened with the Black families, and we went from, at least in the 1965, at 75% of the actual Black families together to what we are now. And I know you said prison. Do you think prison played, and of course we know prison played a role in it, but would you consider that as a number one factor in terms of the actual splitting up the Black family?
Not necessarily. I would say that the law enforcement industry, the entire industry and everything it encompasses, that is the reason, because there are so many Black Americans who were locked up for things that they did not do. It's not a real system that's based to actually prosecute people who actually do crimes, right? Because we know that if you look a certain way, I mean, fucking George Zimmerman is now more known and richer, having killed that boy. Rittenhouse is now on tour, and now this Daniel Perry dude is about to be just another list of white heroes who randomly killed Black people. And so that entire idea of authoritative figures, yes, that's why.
No, right. Thank you, sister. Thank you. DJ, are you up in the space? Not sure if DJ's up in there. Professor, I know you up in here. Professor, you want to add something? DJ may be running some errands. And I'm trying to get some of our people to come up here and speak tonight because this is a good conversation. This is the type of conversation where we need our people coming up and adding to the conversation as much as possible. Everybody's been pretty quiet tonight. We've had a few speakers come up, but everybody's been pretty much just listening, which I can respect. But I definitely would like to see our people come up for a conversation like this because this is a very important conversation, the medical apartheid in particular, and the Moynihan report as well too, because it is relevant to today's time as well too. So for those that can come up, please come up and speak if you want to. We're not forcing you to come up and speak, but we do. One thing about this space, I do look forward to hearing our people's perspective on things as well. So I'm always I'm always ready to listen to somebody come up and just share their thoughts on the situation as well too. But Professor, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, it looked like the space might be acting up though, because I was just looking down at the bottom. It's like the people are missing. Like we had a bunch of people that was at the bottom of this space.
Well, because it's got like I say 57 other people listening. So like sometimes when you have a decent amount of people listening in, it'll just cut up halfway or whatever. But it's something like with the people we got in the space, and then there's additional 57 other people listening to the space. So because we had like 80 some odd people that was in the room at one time.
Yeah, it was like 80 some people sitting in the room, and then all of a sudden I noticed it's like the space disappeared or the people disappeared from the space or something. And then it says listeners there, which is weird because it's saying 67. Yeah, it's saying 67 other listeners. So, man, I'm telling you, man, Elon, know he has messed this shit up. I tell you, this is the shitter.
Yeah, that indeed.
But anyway, family, these are two very important topics because these two topics, these two issues, impact us very much today. Even though the Moynihan report was in 1965, we still know that report, we can even utilize it to this very day. With everything that's going on with the black family, we know he was talking about a quarter of the families was split or divided or just became a single parent home. But we know now that's up to about I'm sure 70% women, of course, are running the households.
Yeah.
So that's a high number, y'all. But we know too that it's been impacted by white supremacy. Because this is what these folks have been doing to us for years in this country, finding ways to try to make sure they can take us out. And one of the people that was a big part of that in making this movement was Margaret Sanger. If you don't know who she is, look her up because she's a very significant part of this whole plan to find ways to take the black community out. Margaret Sanger, a white woman. White women have played a significant part in black people being decimated in this country, either through lies or through even other cunning, underhanded ways. So white men, we talk about them being in the lead of all of this, but really, if you think about those Caucasoid males, they're being led by white women because these are the women that raised them. And they the ones that most likely are teaching them because they are the ones that's going to be around the children. Just like black women are going to be around these children, our children, majority of the time. Women are the ones that's usually around their children. So that goes for white women, black women, the Hispanic women, Latino women, Asian women. Y'all are the mothers. Mothers are around the children the most, right? And the Bible even says that women are the ones that guide the children, right? That's y'all. The men don't actually guide the children. That's the women. That's you all. Men are usually out of the home, and we know that even in the Bible. Go back to the story of Moses. Moses was always out. His wife, was the one taking care of the children. So when I say what's going on with these Caucasoid males, it comes through their mothers. And so this Margaret Sanger is very significant to part of this that's going on in the community because she went to a Ku Klux Klan rally and spoke on what they needed to do to make sure that the black community was decimated and make sure that the black population would decline. Okay, so I'm just telling y'all that this is stuff that had been planned a long time ago, and so we got to. This is why we got to get our people to wake up and realize you're dealing with the enemy out here. Now, these people are not your friends, and when they doing all this smiling in your face, you got to really watch it. Are they smiling in your face because they really love you, or are they smiling in your face because they getting ready to put that damn bullet in your head, or they put that knife in your back? You just can't trust them, and that's been the issue of our community for so long. Is we've been trusting these people, trusting what they say, believing everything that they tell us, thinking that they all kind and nice and shit. How you gonna think these people are kind and nice when they the ones that burning up our communities and burning down our businesses, had us enslaved? They ain't never liked us, man. They ain't never loved us. But we believe this stuff, man, because they know how to play the con game on you. See, that's what y'all got to understand. The connoisseurs know how to play the con game. They con you. And when they conning you, you got to be able to read the con. And our people have fallen for this con shit for too long. Because we know we are people of morality. We don't think in terms of conning. See, we don't think in terms of that. But we have to be on that level. See, my mom talked about this, y'all. She talked about it. She used to tell me, she said, you got to be thinking on the terms that they thinking on. She used to tell me this, and see, because I didn't want to hear it either. I thought, shit, man, we supposed to be cool with these white people, right? Shit, my mom said, you can't trust these damn folks. These folks are snakes. So I'm going to land my plane right there. Go ahead, Brother Muko.
Something those dudes sort of mentioned, and I apologize because that this kind of, I run over what you said in my mind. You mentioned radiation. Radiation is a real key point, and I'm gonna tell you why. Radiation is a real key point because a lot of radiation studies are inconclusive or AKA incomplete. And one of those radiation studies that pertain to almost all of us in this space is the effects of low doses of radiation over long periods of time. Okay? This produces something called acute radiation poisoning. And if anyone don't take Brother Muko's word for it, fuck my word. Go and look up what I'm saying. Look up the symptoms of acute radiation poisoning and tell me, and just think to yourself, what are these symptoms similar to? Okay? Dude Carter said something that was real interesting about the effects of radiation and mentioning that in the article that you're reading. Well, a lot of us kind of overlook that when we're being told something by an institution called CDC or these same doctors that's poisoning us, and we know that they're committing medical apartheid on us, we'll still ignore that and go right back to the murderers that's murdering. You know what I'm saying? And say, well, kind of like I don't have a choice. But when you really do have a choice, you know what I'm saying? When you know better, you have to do better. That's like a two-part thing. It's not just learning better, but the second part of learning better is the do part. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where we fuck up because we always, and I'm talking about we as a collective, because of the individuals I see going in and out of the hospitals, like universities, the John Hopkins, the Sinai. You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of our black people going in and out, and nobody's forcing you in there. You know what I'm saying? So when you know that something isn't good for you, it's up to you to do the part, and it's not going to be easy ever. Okay? What I'm telling y'all, it's easy for me to say this on the stage, but it's hard as shit to do. Okay? Expect it to be hard. Expect everything to be hard. That way, when it's hard, it won't be no surprise to you. Like, oh, like it's the end of the world. Like, but we have to start doing better. And with your help, we have to start paying attention to what we're eating. Just like the sister was saying. Everything in that supermarket is not food. So let's include looking at the ingredients. Yeah, that shit gonna take time, but you can't take the attitude of, well, I'm gonna die anyway. I mean, we got a lot of shit to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's imperative that people pay attention to the ingredients, but more important, when you go into these hospitals, understand that your body is under attack at all times. All of the radiation that's going through them, radiation travels through bricks. It travels through drywall. You know what I'm saying? That little lead shield that they give you when you're going to get your X-rays, that shit don't protect you 100%. Okay? They don't even know the people, the X-ray techs that's X-raying you are more than likely being exposed and their organs are being damaged. And you know what? They're doing it because they put that Hippocratical oath. We didn't sign no oath. But when we going in there, we definitely endangering ourselves. So the worst place you can take your loved one is to the hospital. I was always taught you take your enemy to the hospital. You don't take your loved one to the hospital. So I just land on that with the medical apartheid, the homelessness. I don't think I can beat that drum any more than I already have. Pay attention to the people in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Try to get to know the homeless people that are around your neighborhood. If you pass every day going to work, maybe going to the subway, doing whatever you do, make it a point to get to know them, ask questions. When I was 6 years old, my father made me and my brother look a homeless person in the eye, and he taught us. He was like, at any minute in this time, or while you on this earth, this could be you. You know what I mean? And that's some real shit. That's the realest shit my father ever taught me. You know what I'm saying? I love him to death for, teaching me that, have conversation on. You know what I mean? But that's some real shit. I learned it.
All right. Thank you, Brother Moku. Let me get to Deron. Deron, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to speak again. And I appreciate the brother for pointing out some of those statistics. I got some statistics from Chicago that are pretty alarming to me that I came across. It's that 1 in 2 children on the south and west sides of Chicago will experience issues related to asthma and bronchitis in their lifetime. And this was something that was brought to my attention from someone. Not sure if you guys are familiar with the Santita Jackson show. She's the daughter of Reverend Jesse Jackson, and she broadcasts on WCPT here in Chicago. But one of the things that I wanted to say in regards to that and the other health statistics that we've been pointing out tonight, that includes environmental justice. And that is that we haven't seemed to have a comprehensive study on what our population growth actually is for the last 20 years. From 1979 to 1991, the Black population is estimated to have grown at about 10 million more people. And from 1991 to 2001, according to census data, we only grew 3 million people. Now that's with 10 million more people, we grew at a smaller rate than we did in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And again, this isn't something there's a lot of data about, and there's probably a reason for that. But given everything that we're discussing tonight, I think it'd be a good idea for somebody on the panel or that's listening, if you have these statistics, I think it'd be a good idea for you to share them with us, because I myself, I don't, but that's been something I've been very curious about that I haven't gotten a chance to do a ton of research about. So I'll land there, but I wanted to put that question out to the panel if anybody has that information. Thank you.
No, right. I had actually stepped away from a second, Deron. I know you said something about some statistics that was taking place in Chicago, so I actually did step away from a second, so I actually missed that. I'm sorry about that.
No, so I was pointing out this like some health statistics in Chicago and was tying that into like environmental justice and other health disparities that have been pointed out tonight on the call. And the question was, I kind of tied it into census data that was reported from 1979 to 1991, where the Black population is estimated to have grown by 10 million more people. But from 1991 to 2001, the Black population, even with 10 million more people, we only grew at about 3 million. And so I was wondering if anybody on the call, on the panel, had any data or research to determine if we are actually decreasing in population, or if there's any information about our population growth that hasn't been accounted for.
That's actually a great question. I mean, it seems like from what the census and the stats always say, like it doesn't seem like we're growing a whole lot, because we've been stuck on the 40 some odd million since the 90s. It seemed like, doesn't it, Professor? Like it doesn't seem like you would think by now Black people be at 50 million, 60 million, but
12%, 13% is what they always get at when it comes to our so-called population. But I don't believe that, though. I think we actually might have more, Tana.
But
I don't know, man.
But here's the thing, Professor, because the actual country now is what the country itself is supposed to be what, about at least 330 million people. So the country is actually getting more people. But like you say, we're staying stuck at 13, 14%. I even see sometimes 12%. So if the country is actually growing bigger, you would think that we would actually be getting bigger as a population as well, too.
Yeah, we should be. But I think they're trying to keep us at that number so they can throw us off. Because, see, here's the thing, y'all. A lot of Black Americans don't even fill out the census. I know that just down here. So a lot of our people don't really fill it out because, one, they don't want to be bothered with government shit. Government harassment, I guess you could say. So they don't. So we really don't know the actual numbers, or the actual data when it comes to our percentage of the population here. And then, of course, we have to take into account these non-Blacks. I don't mean to say non-Blacks, but the non-LBA Blacks, because they're gonna tie them in too. See. You have to tie them into our numbers too. So I don't know the actual numbers when it comes to them. So it's just really hard to know. Hopefully, I wish we could find out the actual numbers, Darren. I would love to be able to find that out.
Hey, maybe there will be some alternative ways to try and go around the census, like maybe gathering data, like maybe employment data or unemployment data, and filtering for race to see if, even if the people who live in a certain municipality, maybe say take St. Louis, for example. We know St. Louis is a majority Black city, but we also know, like you and Newstoter mentioned, maybe most of the people who live on the north and south side who are Black and unemployed may not have filled out the census. So the state or the city might have data for those people, but not the census. So I don't know, it's just food for thought, but yeah.
Our brother, Homeland, he might have an idea. Go ahead, Black America. I know you're about to speak.
Real quick, real quick, Black Americans. I know Shepard had his hand up, so I'm gonna let you go real quick. But put your hands up, guys, if you want to speak, Because I know Shepard just got up here and he put his hands up. So go ahead and put your hands up if you want to speak. But I'm gonna let you go ahead, Black American.
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead. Yes, statistics is my field of concern. I wrote about this in my book. Right now in 2021, the black population stands around 50 million. So it seems like our population grows like 10 million every 10 years. Now the thing is, right now the black population that's born outside of the United States are around 20% of that 50 million. So let's say the native black population 30 million, and the black population born outside the United States is 10 million. So that's 50 million. Now, I think if I can remember correctly, I'm not looking at my work, but they said 50. The black population born outside the United States is going to be 50% of the total black population. So what's happening? I guess I'm trying to say is the foreign-born black population is growing faster than the native-born population. But hopefully that foreign-born population over time they can assimilate into the broader Black American population.
Very good point, Black American Homeland. Thank you for coming up and sharing that information. Sorry about that, Shepard, man. I didn't see you at first. Go ahead, man.
No, that's all good. He made really valid points too. He's on point with what he said. Populations grow from migrants. We're in a unique situation as African Americans because we don't have a migrant population that can come from somewhere else and add to our numbers. Oakland, California is a good example. Oakland, California had about 2% black population in the 1900s. And in 1940s, the population of Oakland, California was like 40%. It was because we moved from the south and from up north to Oakland because of the war. In the war and the shipping industries, we had canneries, we had all type of industries that were going on in Oakland. Public transportation, infrastructure. There were 4 military bases in Oakland. Those are all now closed. So our population shifted over there. But now, if you look at Oakland, our population is down, and the Hispanic population is the largest population in Oakland. Why is that? Well, because they have a migrant community that keeps intermarrying. Honduras marries Nicaraguan, marries Mexican, marries, Salvadorian. They intermix even though they're separate cultures, and they keep their population going. While as our decline, I'm using Oakland as an example. In Oakland, was that we got to a higher stature in life, and we moved out of some of the inner cities, and we moved out of Oakland, or we moved to middle class residential. So we found that our breeders, right? To use that word, it's a crude word, but I'm gonna use it. You understand what I'm saying? Our breeders are our lower income population. So currently, Black American childbearing women are under the custodial supervision of housing and urban development and redevelopment and housing authorities across the United States. All of the housing projects and all of the redevelopment projects are where our breeders are, where our population is coming from. And they're under a white supremacist system that is using them to recirculate money and to keep them oppressed and in a ghetto kind of condition. So the conditions aren't even optimal for our race to double, triple, and quadruple, and for them to actually also be healthy and mind, body, and keep that going. their mental health in the projects is bad. The conditions in the projects are bad. But this is where the majority of our race. And if you ask me how I know this, it's because I work with redevelopment and housing authorities across the United States, and I worked with HUD one time. But sitting in the meetings of municipal redevelopment and housing authorities where our population resides, the HUD inspectors and the HUD government officials would come in, they would monitor the meetings, they would introduce new legislation and things through, not policy through HUD, not legislation, and they had a firm grip on the money, and it's just very complicated. But for every dollar the municipality spends for redevelopment housing authority, they get $4 from HUD, from the federal government. So that's why they want to keep us in a bad mental state. They want to keep us in food deserts. They want to keep us not eating vegetables and not being healthy. They want to keep us in these urban jungles. And that's how, what the brother was speaking to, how they're keeping our population down. And even with we're so hardy. And when I mean hardy, I mean strong and fertile naturally, that they can't do it. But to your other point in our land, we don't have a migrant population. That's why a lot of us feel, our opinion is that disaggregation is a weakening effect on our numbers. Like the brother said, maybe 10 million of our numbers are contributable to the Caribbean and to Africa, and we hope that they, and they and us become one sort of political group, and we all get what we want through our own self-interest, right? But we don't have what these other groups have that are taking over. Primarily, the Indian community, the Hispanic community. I'm sitting right here across from a Russian market, a Russian-owned Little Caesars, a Russian medical clinic. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they come in, they replenish their population from other countries, and that's what we don't have. So, I'll end with that.
All right, Shepard, I'm back. I stepped off for a second. Guys, so far we got one person to donate to the NICE program, so I'm going to keep drumming keep hitting that drum to support Black media. We definitely need some support. So for those that can donate, and like I said, we're not picky. I even said $1 or $2 to the NICE program is greatly appreciated. So I'm going to continue to drum that beat, because Newstoter is not just a space. Newstoter is an actual platform itself. It is a Black-owned platform that curates news from other Black-owned news sources. We need that support. So for those that can support, and I'm not talking about our people that support all the time, because let me give a shout out to all our people in the space that support all the time. I see Professor, DJ, Brother Muku, No Taxation, Miss Giselle, A Boogie, Ray. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about some of our ones that have never donated. We're saying if you can donate just $1 to the NICE program, please. It is greatly appreciated. For $1, we're at least trying to get 4 or 5 of our people to go ahead and donate $1 to the NICE program, because we definitely, if we want to go ahead and compete on the big stage, we definitely need support from our people. Like I said, we're doing it every day. Today we put out and today I just fully got back yesterday I just got back off of my suspension. Still put out 25 articles a day on the actual Twitter platform. So Newstoter's own platform. Matter of fact, visit newstoter.com daily, guys. So not everything, we can't tweet everything out on Twitter. So to actually see exactly what's going on in Black America, you need to make sure that you go to the website, newstoter.com. Just like up there when you see Newstoter, just put a .com and visit the site daily. But we definitely need that support. Cash App, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. You're supporting the largest Black-owned, Black American-owned. We always talk about Black American. We always talk about delineating all this other stuff. The largest Black American-owned news media curation platform today in America. If you do not have a Cash App, we have Venmo and PayPal. Like I said, we have one person that actually donated to the program tonight. We're at least trying to see if we can get a few other people to go ahead and donate, whether that's $1, whether that's $2. We don't care. We're not trying to be picky. We know that it's crucial times. We know that people's pockets are hurting. We're not trying to put people into debt. We don't ask for a whole lot, but for those that can donate, it is greatly appreciated. So like I say, I am drumming that beat. I am trying to go ahead and secure it for everything for what we do. So definitely Blood Pack, Brooke, thank you for your donation, sister. I see you. So thank you for your donation on Cash App, sister. Greatly appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get to I want to get to I see we got some hands up. Thank you, Miss Denise, as well, because I know you contributed before as well, sister. So thank you for your donation on Venmo. Let me go ahead real quick because I want to go ahead and get to some of the new speakers as well too. I see that we got, and Fred is up here as well too. So I want to go ahead and get the Shism. I want to get to Shism. I want to get to Rock Roll. I want to get to Fred. We're gonna get to you, Darren as well, and we're gonna get back to you as well, Black American as well too. So let me go ahead and get the Shism. Shism, how you doing tonight? Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Oh, I'm doing good, thank you. And we keep drumming that beat. You know who I think is one of the greatest fundraisers in PR. They be on it. So
oh yeah, they be on it.
They be on it. They be raising the money. So we hope we get to that point as well. I just wanted to, because I ended up going on the U.S. Census website just to see about those numbers. And I don't know what this is, but it says household type by relatives and non-relatives for population and households. And then it says Black or African American alone. So it says the total number is 37 million, right? And then you round it off. And then it says in family households, it says 30 million. And then in married couple family, it says 14. Then it has to drop down where it says relatives and non-relatives. Now for the relatives, it says 14. And I was looking for the definition of what they mean by relatives and non-relatives. And then for the non-relatives, it's 120,000. And then it says male householders, no spouse present. It says 2,960,000. It says relatives, 2,667,000. And then it goes with non-relatives, 292,000. Then it says female householders, no spouse present, 13 million. Relatives, 12 million. And then non-relatives, 526,000. And then it's the last, it says in non-family households, and then it's just 7,232,000. So then, of course, they had a margin of error. So it looks like the numbers, are they fluctuating every 10 years? I don't know. But if at one point it was 45 or 40, and then I don't know if these numbers, and I was looking, trying to go deep a little on the site a little further to see if I can, if it get a little more specific, but I'm still working on that. So I did just want to kind of bring some of those numbers up. Thank you.
Hey, Newstoter, can I address that?
Wait. Hold on, Black American. Let me go ahead real quick because we got a couple new hands up. So let me go ahead and get to the new hands, and we'll get to you too. So everybody real quick, mute your mic. Fred, is your mic muted? Hey, Fred, is your mic muted? Okay. Let me go ahead and give a shout out real quick. Thank you, Rock Roller, for your contribution on Cash App. Let me get to Rock Roller. Then I want to get to Fred, and we'll get to you, Black American, and Darren as well, too. So go ahead, Rock Roller. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, what's up? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, shout out to the room. I wanted to ask this question because I'm 52 years old. And I remember back in the damn 80s, we was 13% of the population in the 80s. And I want somebody to please explain to me how 50 years later, we're still 13%. And please don't tell me about we don't have enough migrants. And we got 20% of that 13% are Africans or Caribbeans. Somebody got to explain that shit to me, bro. Because the math don't just math up for me. And I'll land right there.
Rock Roller, I'm trying to figure that out myself as well too. I mean, since I was a teenager, I've been hearing this 13% my whole time, and we still at 13. Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out as well too. They talk about all these babies Black folks be having and stuff like that. I'm just trying to figure out what do these babies go to. So I mean, I'm trying to figure this out myself. I would think by now we'd at least have 60, 70 million Black people in this country. So to me, the math ain't adding up. I don't believe that. Like Professor said early, for one, I ain't gonna say most, but a lot of Black people not filling out that damn census too. Let's be honest about that. But like you said, I can go back to the 90s since I was a teenager, early 90s. I've been hearing this same thing about, oh, we're 13%. It's 40 some million black people and this and that. Like good Lord. Like, I mean, how long does it take to hit the 50 mark? And if we hit the 50, how long does it take to hit 60? Now, I know we talking about delineation and stuff online, but let's be for real. Shepard was in here and he was saying that we should go ahead and mix with Caribbean and this and that. And black Americans have been mixing with other black people. If you want to be real about it, black Americans have been mixing with other black ethnic groups in this country. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Like, they've been mixing. I know a bunch of black Americans married to dated Jamaican women, had kids from Jamaican women, had kids from island women, married island people, this and that. So it's been going on. So how in the hell is this possible? How are we still stuck at this mythical 13%? We still stuck in the 40 some odd million group. Like I said, I haven't seen one of these major white people say, well, you know what? Black people they got 50 million black people in the country. It's still in the 40 million. So I'm with you, Rod Roller. It's a head scratcher for me. I'm trying to figure out how in the hell is this possible? How are we still stuck at this same number? 10 years from now, we'll still be in the 40 millions. How things are going. They'll still say 10 years from now, well, black people, they'll probably say, well, black people, it's 47 million black people in the country or something like that. So I guess the next thing people will say, well, black people, they have more abortions per capita than any other group. That'll be the excuse next. It'll be like, oh, well, black people, they have all these abortions. And if they didn't have these abortions, and it'd be 80 million of them and all this other nonsense like that. Like, we're the only group in the country that have abortions. White women have a bunch of damn abortions. And their numbers, I mean, their numbers ain't been stuck for the past 30, 40 damn years either. So I don't even want to hear that, the abortion stuff. Because we always say, well, black, first off, nobody's had more abortions in this country than white women. I don't give a damn what percentage you want to put down and this and that or whatever. Nobody had more abortions than damn white women. And their numbers ain't been stuck since the damn 90s at the same thing right here either. So let's just cut the crap real quick, y'all.
Yeah, y'all, it's the Margaret Sanger plan in effect. Been in effect since the 1920s when this old hag went to that Klan rally and told those folks, we got to put this plan into effect to make sure that we can keep this black population down and decrease it at all costs. I'm telling you where it came from. Margaret Sanger was one of the head ones that led the way for this. That's why she did this Planned Parenthood. See, for the longest, we as black Americans, we thought Planned Parenthood was something there to help us. That shit ain't there to help us. That was Margaret Sanger's way of saying, hey, black America, bring your black ass over here so I can help you to decrease this population. Because I don't want you Negroes to keep going. I'm telling you, family, if you haven't read up on Margaret Sanger, I'm telling you a little bit about her, just to give you the little tidbit, right? But tonight, I'm going to do the DJ thing, right? I want you knackers to do some homework tonight, and I want you to get into your books and read up on Margaret Sanger. I want you to understand why this woman is important to history and why white America worship her. And I'm going to tell you one of the ones that was big time on this lady. One of the people that called us super predators, Hillary Rodham Clinton, who said that black people were super predators. Okay? She was worshiping this lady, Margaret Sanger. This was a hero. She said it in a speech. Margaret Sanger was a hero. And there's others that have also gave her a lot of praise too. So I'm telling you, read up on Margaret Sanger because she was a significant part of white supremacy. And I want you to do the homework tonight on this lady. All right, I'm going to land right there.
Hey, real quick, Professor, let me give you a shout out too for your contribution on PayPal. Let me go ahead and get to Fred. Fred, go ahead and unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. One thing about this population of Black Americans is that I actually was once did it, the census. I was an enumerator. And what they do is when I used to go to some of these houses,
Yeah, you there, Fred? Hey, Fred, you went silent. You there, Fred?
okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you went blank.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, Fred, go back to where you was about to talk about you was working for somebody or something you said.
Okay, the census. I was actually an enumerator. I did the census. And one of the things that they used to do is whenever I went to a household, if one of the parents were black, whenever you mark down race, they always mark down black. I don't care what the other spouse was. The race they went by was black. Now, there's a lot of blacks, once you went there, they really didn't feel comfortable giving out information because, we have reason to believe something nefarious could be going on, even though they say it's a census. But now, one thing I don't want any black American to be tricked by, when they say don't get popular, like number of us mixed up with percentage, because first of all, there is more than 40 million of us in America, simply by the way people are categorizing and why they're categorizing that way. But you have to understand when they talk about percentages, you can have more people, but your percentage can stay the same simply because the amount of Hispanics that have come into the country. So if you have, I think at one point, America crossed like 300 million people. Okay, we could have another 10 million blacks added to the population in 30 or 40 years. But you got to look at how Hispanics, quote unquote, have been allowed to come over into the country with no quota. So when you look at, if you say, for instance, there's 200 million 200 million people in the country and 40 million blacks, then you got 300 million people. Now there's 60 million blacks. The percentage can stay the same, even though the numbers have gone up.
But that 40 million never changes. The 40 million never changes. It's always 40 million.
To be honest, like I said, there's more than 40 million. I didn't actually see some numbers where they say it's more than 40 million. So what they're doing is they're calling themselves, pulling a sleight of hand. Because, see, we actually have larger numbers than 40 million. There's no way. See, we actually have population growth. There's only one group that has a negative birth rate. And every year, I notice every year in another state, whites are at less than a 0% population growth. In 2000, it was one state. In 2023, it's 23 states. So we're the only ones, like us and Hispanics, we have pretty much the same identical birth rate. But what kept our numbers, our percentages down was because, like I said, they've been allowed to come into the country at such a great clip. Like, for instance, they're actually a higher percentage of Americans than what we are. But our numbers have grown. That's just something that they try not to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Let me go ahead and get to a new speaker. Let me get the black majority state. Denise, if you want to speak, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get to you as well too. Black, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay. Peace, everybody in space. So, for the population control, which a lot of people brought up a lot of points, and we're dealing with two issues. We're dealing with the fact that they are artificially keeping our population low, and abortion, unfortunately, is a big component of it because they document over 20 million of our babies have been killed through abortion. So that is a genocide. The other issue is they have been flooding the country, not just with Mexicans, although I put a post down in the purple chat. They estimate 30 million Mexican types have come into the country, but it's been the European immigration of over 100 million over the last 200 years. there were books written in the early 1900s that one of the presidents actually read, and it was all about flooding the country with Europeans in order to keep their population above ours number-wise. And the warning was, if they don't do that, eventually the country will be dominated by Black Americans. So all of that is in the eugenicist movement. It was all sort of orchestrated in that way, and it's continued till today. And so don't forget the Europeans. Ms. Rella talks about it a lot, but that is how they have kept their population way above ours. And that's all I wanted to say.
All right. All right. Thank you, Black. Let me go ahead and get to Denise, and then I'm going to go ahead and get back to the other speakers. Denise, go ahead and unmute your mic. How you doing tonight?
Hello, fam. I had to come on. Our population, the way I see it, there are 4 elements going on. Your friend hit on one, right? All the other extra folks that are coming into here, which keeps our numbers the way that they are. But we also contribute to it because let's just be real about it. Not a lot of us actually participate in the census. And so we are not counted. I don't know why we don't do it, but we don't do it, right? Then you add on Planned Parenthood, which has contributed, is, nail, so to speak, in our coffin, right? But my number one thing is this: consider the source, okay? Consider the source. Would you take the hand of a killer who just killed your whole family and believe them that it was your family's fault that killed, that the reason why he killed them? No, you wouldn't. So you add those elements in there, and this is, I think, in my personal opinion, this is why we're still at 13%. Planned Parenthood not participating in the census, allowing other ethnic or racial groups to come in to this country. You add those things all together, we're 13%. That's all I want to say. I'll end my plane.
Thank you, Miss Denise. Let me go.
And Tana,
Yeah.
I just want to say right quick what Black Majority State is talking about, y'all, because once again, I'm going to say do y'all homework on this. One of the presidents that was big on this whole racial dynamic, Woodrow Wilson. You'd like to read on this character because he definitely was not a friend of Black America. So you might want to read up on that guy because he also was one of the ones that sit up in there and he was hyping up that movie Birth of a Nation. If you remember, Birth of a Nation is a Klan movie which they hyped up about, them coming to save white women from the so-called boogeyman Black America, from the boogeyman Black American men, because that's how they portrayed us in that movie. As the boogeyman, they portrayed the Klan as being heroes, and this guy Woodrow Wilson was huge on supporting that type of shit. So I'm gonna land my plane there.
All right, thank you, Professor. Let me go ahead and get to Black American. Black American, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yes, I have some U.S. Census projections here. Okay, in 2020, U.S. Census, the white population was 59%. This is white only, 59% of the population. By 2050, they project the white population to be 42%. So they're going to lose 17% of their population in the next 30 years. Or this is percentage. Actually, their population is still going to go up. However, their percentage, they're going to lose, their percentage is going to go down by 17%, or 17 points. The black population in 2020 was 14%. I'm rounding off, it's actually 13.88, but I'm going to round it up to 14%. By 2050, they project the black population at 18% of the population. So actually, we're going up 4 points in 30 years. the Hispanic population in 2020 is 19%, and by 2050 they project the Hispanic population at 28%. So they're gonna go up by 9 points. And the last is the Asian population. In 2020, they are 5% of the population, and by 2050, they're gonna almost double to 9% of the population. So really, the black population is still growing. Of course, this is going to be helped with the Caribbean, the South American, and the African population, but we're still growing. We just need for the native black population to grow more. And the thing is, 80% of the native black American population, we are concentrated in urban areas. 80% of the native black population live in urban areas, and I advocate for the black population to move to those smaller towns or rural areas so they can have larger families. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Black American. Let me go ahead and get to Deron. Deron, go ahead and unmute your mic.
And again, this is actually a follow-up to something that Black American had mentioned earlier about the fertility rate of poor Black Americans who are concentrated in urban housing centers. And my follow-up to that was, I guess, what I want to know is what is stopping our higher income, educated African Americans from growing their families? You know, there was a time in the 50s and 60s and 80s during the height of the Union era where Black families were having between 4 and 9 children. You know, we all have stories from our grandmothers who were raised in households, multi-family households with large families, blue-collar working class people. But now it seems like that's in reverse, where poor African Americans, much like what's going on in a lot of global South nations like India and Nepal, where these poor families are having most of the population growth. But we have an entire educated class. We always hear about the divine line and enrollment rate of Black women into these higher learning institutions. But when you look at the fertility rates of Black women who have 4-year degrees or advanced degrees, it's lower than poor women, poor African American women. So that's something I don't know if you have the data on that, but I would love to hear it if there's any information on that. And then lastly, I think that this is a conversation that we could continue to have, but that will also be good for anyone in the diaspora who does work with polling, because I agree that most of us are not filling out their census. I know that for a fact because I have family and friends who didn't participate. I participated because I was in a situation where I had to, but I know for a fact most of my family did not fill out their census. So if anybody does work polling, that's Black-led, a Black-led organization, nonprofit, or whatever, I think that would be a project for us to pick up. And I'll land there.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and get to we'll get to Black Majority State, Schism, and Trouble. Those will be our last 3 speakers. Brother McCool, matter of fact, I know you had your hand up. Did you want to say something? I know you had your hand up. Brother Moku, you there? Okay, I think he may not be there. But we'll go Black Majority State, Schism, and Trouble. Those will be the last 3 speakers for tonight. So Go, Rolla, I'll go ahead and get you in there. You'll be the last one there. And that'll be it for the night, guys. We've been going since 8 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get ready to shut it down soon. Black Majority State, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you so much. So the thing I forgot to add, there's something called natural increase, which is your birth rate minus the death rate. And in the Black American population, we have about 150,000 deaths that are attributed to cardiac disease and cancers. This has been pretty consistent for like the last 20, 30, 40 years. And then our natural birth rate is right around 500,000 annually, and that's been pretty consistent. So you end up with like a natural increase of about 350,000 per year. So that's another number that you would look at to understand why we're growing as slowly as we're growing, because we got only 500,000 births, and then we got 150,000 deaths that are just attributed to two. That's almost half of our deaths in our population. So just to put that out there as well. So if you added the other half, we're probably at about 300,000 deaths annually, somewhere in that general range.
All right, thank you, Black. Let me go ahead and get to Shizm. Shizm, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. This may be a little silly, but when it comes time to do the next census, when we have to count, and when we have to count the he, she's, and the she, he's, how they gonna count them? Are they gonna create a new classification for them? And I mean, as far as gender wise, how they gonna count that?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know.
But the racial side of it, if they black, I guess if they black trans, they still count them as black. I guess. Yeah, it's not gonna change. It's just they changing their damn sex and shit, which that don't really matter to the census per se, unless you're talking about just the, like somebody saying, well, I want to be a male and I want to be a female. I mean, from that perspective, but on the racial dynamic, if they're a black trans, they'll still be a black trans, a black person. Unless they're going to create some new racial group called black transformers. Now, you think they're going to do that?
Hey, Shizm, please don't get Professor started on this Transformer stuff, please. Like, don't get Professor started on the Transformer thing, please.
I know. But would that increase our numbers or decrease our numbers for black women or for black men? It's like, because they don't have to they ain't checking birth certificates. If they want to put, now I'm a black female, will that increase black women numbers artificially? Because that would be an artificial number, right?
I don't know. The way things are moving in this society, one never really knows. I guess we'll find out in due time, because you got a bunch of people now that want to be classified differently on these census. So I guess we'll kind of see. I like I said, this whole thing, to me, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out a lot of this classification stuff out. People talking about this person is a cis and this person is this, and it's just really confusing to me, to be honest.
Hey, Newstoter, look, the LGBTQ, whatever you want to call them, they are 3%. They're 3% of the national population, and the trans group is probably 1% of that 3%.
Yeah, and they will a whole lot of power, because let's be for real, the trans and the LGBTQ, the ones that will the power in those groups are white folks. So if those groups didn't have white folks in it, they'd be powerless. But the fact that they do have white people in it, they can still, as always, call the shot. So that's one reason why they're so powerful. I don't care what percentage it is. They have enough people that at the very top of the food chain are white. So that's how they're able to go ahead and get all this stuff started. So Let me go ahead real quick and get to Trouble. We'll get to Trouble and then Rock Roll, and we're gonna go ahead and close it out for the night. Trouble, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Newstoter, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing all right. Happy Juneteenth to everybody in the space, and I hope y'all partied hard today and kicked it with your family and just relaxed yourself and had a good time. So I'm just going to add a little small piece. I just came into the space, so I hope I'm not being repetitive in what I'm going to say. But I heard you all talking about the numbers as far as the 13%. And so y'all know how I roll, and what I'm pretty much going to say is you always have to keep in mind that white man's with broke tongue. And they've been knowing since before the 60s that they have global birth decreases. So because I believe he lives in a sort of a Alice in Wonderland, upside down, left is right, right is left world, those 13% of numbers that he is attributing to us is actually his numbers. Those are not our numbers. And it probably has more to do with everything else than everything else that was named, than the fact that he is never going to feel that we are increasing in numbers in any way, because it hits the mind in a particular way when you feel like you are less than. When you feel like you are less than and you are the minority, that's less chance of you causing an uprising. That's less chance of you getting your mind right to even consider what it looks like for you to be on top. And so I don't care how many census forms we fill out, there's always going to be a debauchery because they cheat. They don't report all of the numbers, just like when you go to vote. All of a sudden, the voting machines get broken down and the votes come up and they pretty much in there anyhow. It's always going to be the same thing when it comes to how many black folks is here, how many black folks is there. They're never, ever, ever report the truth. I don't care how many polls you take, because everybody ain't taking polls. Statistics you put out ain't getting the answers from everybody. And even if they did, aren't really going to tell you the truth.
Trouble, you in the Matrix.
Sorry, but they never going to tell you the truth, and that's that on that. And I'm going to land my plane.
All right. Let me go ahead and get to Rock Roller. Rock Roller is going to be the last speaker for the night. So, Rock Roller, you got it. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to add to your point that you made a few minutes ago about how white women are having more abortions than anybody. Because if what y'all are saying that abortions are decreasing our numbers, if that shit was true, they would have never overturned Roe versus Wade, bro. And I'll lay it right there.
Good point you made there. Good point you made, Rock Roller. Let me go ahead and kick it to the co-host DJ. I know you probably was gone for most of the space, but let you and Professor go ahead and get it in before we go ahead and close the space out for the night. You guys want to go ahead and add something to it? Good space as always. So definitely glad to have our people come out tonight as always in support. So thank everybody who came out and supported the space. But you guys want to say something?
Hey, no, I was here for the space the whole time or whatever. You know, shout out to everybody. Y'all was all cooking or whatever. Just over here hanging with the family or whatever. But I'm going to head it back home or whatever the case. Hey, everybody, enjoy your night, enjoy your week, enjoy the rest of your Father's Day, Juneteenth. Newstoter up, man. Love y'all.
All right, Professor.
All right. Great space family. I'm glad that everybody came up and gave their talking points on this issue, on both issues. Let's keep this up. As far as like just keep everything that we talk about in this space. Keep this in mind that we cannot let this go. We got to continue to educate our people about everything that we talk about in these spaces. That's one thing about a Newstoter space. You're getting the education, and once you get this education, you share it with everybody within the community, within your family, with your children. This Moynihan report is very important. Continue to talk to your family about it. The medical apartheid, continue to talk to your family about that, because these issues are still taking place to this very day. White supremacy surrounds us every day. So whatever we talk about in this space, remember it's educational, and you share it with your family, you share it with your friends. Let's just continue to be positive and uplift each other, and let's continue to have these great talking points in these spaces so we can try to come out of this mess that we're in, y'all. We got a long way to go, but I believe we can get there. Newstoter up, Newstoter family. I love you. Peace out.
All right, appreciate that. And real quick, let me give a shout out to Mr. Harold. Harold, thank you for your contribution on PayPal. Another interesting space. I definitely want to go ahead and touch up on this medical apartheid, and I also want to go ahead and link it to an important issue such as the Moynihan report. Even though this thing came out in 1965, he was spot on with some of the stuff he said. Definitely about the black poverty issue that we had going on in America. That issue hasn't gone anywhere. We still have that issue going on in America. Of course, we know we definitely got that black apartheid situation going on as well too. So I thought this was a very informative space. Thank you to all my people that came up here and spoke tonight. I definitely appreciate that. I know sometimes our people just want to sit back and actually hear the conversation, but shout out to those that actually came up here and spoke as well too. And Rolla, I'm with you on that abortion thing. If it was something that was just strictly killing black women, they be trying to go ahead and legalize it in every damn place in this world. But the fact of the matter that they women was actually doing it, and I've said that, and I don't doubt that it hasn't been a genocide with black women. I don't doubt that, but it's been an even bigger genocide with white women. And they had to go ahead and get rid of it, because if 20 million black women have aborted fetuses, I would venture to say 35 to 40 million probably white women have killed theirs as well too. So let's just go ahead and keep it a buck at that one. But like I said, if it was just something that was strictly killing black women, they would definitely be going ahead and they'd be advertising it on billboards and everything else. They'd be passing flyers out. They'd be trying to get 13, 14, 15-year-old girls to go ahead and become new members of it as well too. So I definitely believe that it's been a major issue with black women in this country as well too, but it's been a much, 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 much bigger issue with white women as well too. So I definitely wanted to go ahead and put that out there. So like I said, thank you once again, guys. We definitely appreciate everybody coming up in the space. It was a good space. It was an informative space as well. Rira, so you came up in here, so I'll go ahead and let you get something in really quick, sister, because I was going to shut the space down, but I'm going to go ahead and let you get something in real quick. Go ahead, Rira.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Toter, DJ, Professor, and all the family in the business. Y'all, I love y'all, bro. Those free. We done barbecue. We done had drinks on top of drinks on top of drinks. You know what I'm saying? My husband was like, listen, we're leaving. I was like, why? Why we gotta leave? But as far as the medical apartheid, you guys listen. It's not, like a lot of people are like, no, our government wouldn't do this to us. They wouldn't do this to us. No, they've been doing it to us. They've been doing it to us. Tuskegee, Henrietta Lacks. I mean, just the bombing of our streets, our cities. Just the fact that Serena Williams couldn't even go, who has the best medical, period. She has to have, the best medical. I seen a clip of a brother who they said, oh, he was supposed to be dead. He heard him, and he took the syringes out of his arms. He walked out. It's medical apartheid is real. And so a lot of us like to think that, these white people ain't their ancestors. But if we're our ancestors, they're absolutely their ancestors, right? They're their ancestors too, And so, as far as our black poverty and stuff like that, do you guys mind? Do you guys mind? I got the whole family at my house right now. I'm so sorry. I got an 11-year-old. I got a 1.5-year-old. I got a dog that's only 9 months. My mom is recovering, so I got the whole family in my house. Please excuse me. But Black poverty. If ever you guys wanted to look and kind of see where it all stems from, I would definitely try to advise you to the ISIS paper. Not only does she talk about, medical apartheid and the LGBT agenda and everything, she just, it's like, how did she know? She wrote these books in like 1969, 71, 72. She was much ahead of her time with the ISIS paper. And I just read it probably 2 weeks ago, and everything that she said was going to happen. And I'm like, damn, did she make this book to keep us up, or did she create a blueprint for these white people to kind of feed into? And you know what I mean? It's like all of the stuff that we do, rather it's to enlighten us and to wake up our people. These white people find a way to grab it and change it into their own personal narrative. You know what I mean? But medical apartheid is absolutely real. I went with my niece to have a baby. When my niece, she had a baby, they wouldn't give her epidural. They waited until she was so uncomfortable and so in pain. And then when she went to the doctor, they didn't give her the epidural because they was like, oh, you're already going to surgery. My mom had COVID, long-term COVID. She's been going to the hospital time after time again, and they never told her. They didn't check her lungs. The first doctor that checked her lungs, it came out that she had lung cancer. And so she's been getting all these things done. They're checking her lungs, they're checking her liver, they're checking her appendix, they're checking everything. Come to find out now, she got colon cancer too. They don't care about us. The only thing they want to do is make money. This medical apartheid is taking on a new whole diabolical term. Like back in the day when doctors would make house calls, that's because they really cared. Right now, they don't care. You got doctors in the hospital delivering 100 babies a day. They don't give a shit. They just don't care. But medical apartheid is a whole thing. And I was in a space with a bunch of white people the other day, and they were like, yeah, reparations ain't gonna help nobody. Reparations are going to help nobody. It's not going to help black people. It's not going to help white people. It's not going to help nobody. And I said, no, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you because you're so busy with your figures and everything everybody else gets, even though you got everything. And you guys, they're sitting pretty. Sorry. The only white person to me is that they're like, or they're drug addicts or whatever. And white society, they just throw their useless, degenerate population to the side. You know what I'm saying? But they literally said reparations isn't going to help anybody. And I said, no, reparations isn't going to help you. There will absolutely be backlash on us getting our reparations. There's going to be white women trying to fuck with all these black dudes because now they got money. There's going to be a lot of white men who are going to be burning crosses on our lawns. You know what I'm saying? When we get this money. And so black poverty, they don't want it to change. They want us to be on the bottom. They want us to have to ask them for this and ask them for that. That's why even these white people, these whites, they're like, you have nothing to do with this. The U.S. government is going to give us reparations. It's going to be taking out everybody's taxes, meaning mine too. You know what I'm saying? Mine too. They don't care. They just don't want us to get anything they don't get, even though they already have the upper hand. And it's really sad. It's sadistic. And we have a bigger hill to climb. We have a way bigger hill to climb. Because if they don't give us our reparations, then what the fuck are we going to do? Right? Are we still going to keep asking? Are we still going to be saying, oh my God, I can't believe a black woman died at the hospital while giving birth? Nigga, they trying to kill us. They're trying to kill us. it is a whole ethnocide going on, and everybody who's coming into America is on board with it. And I mean, I love my African brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem with them. I genuinely don't. We created civil rights and wanted them to come over here so that they could have a better life. I just didn't know that they were going to go, you know, this way with it. Like, oh, white people would rather have us at work than you. Like, bro, listen, if we fail, you fail. If we fail, the whole world fails. So they should be trying to unite with us, and they should be trying to, you know what I'm saying, do what it is that it takes to get freedom and justice. But, you know, they so scared, and they like, oh, well, I was never enslaved. You're not enslaved, but you're colonized, and that's two different things for us, right? Enslaved is one thing. We have every reason to be mad. But colonized looks different to them. I don't know why. But colonization looks different to them. You know what I mean? But I'm going to land right here. Medical Apartheid is a real book. It's a real book. You can look it up and you can find it. The stuff that they did to us, the way that they made it to where they sterilized us. They sterilized us for like a decade. They made every Black person get a vaccine that would sterilize them. And through all that.
Hey, Rerah.
We still survive. Resilience, strategic, bruh.
Hey.
Still survive. And I'll land there. Thank you so much, Newstoter.
Okay. Thank you, sister. All righty. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to end the space tonight, guys. We will be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys already know the time. So make sure you go ahead and tweet the spaces out as well, too. And thank you to everybody who spoke tonight. Thank you, Rerah, for coming in. You came in last and you kind of got it in. That's longer than you normally speak, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And shout out to you and shout out to all the speakers tonight as well. Black Majority State.
I'm so sorry for being so long-winded. I'm so sorry, you guys, but I love y'all. It's Juneteenth, you know, and I hope that you guys enjoy Juneteenth the same way that I did. You know, I'm sorry about that.
How about you?
I love y'all.
No doubt. We love you too, sister. Seemed like I'm sure you had a little something, like you said, a little something to drink as well too. So you probably
absolutely.
I'm sure you feeling a little nice tonight. So you seem like you feeling a little nice tonight. So you know it is what it is. And happy Juneteenth to everybody up in the space as well too, guys. Y'all make sure y'all come through tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the usual time as well. So shout out to the co-hosts, the speakers, the listeners. Thank you to everybody who supported the platform tonight as well, too, guys. We're going to catch you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Everybody have a good night. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, family.
Love y'all.